Hello there retro gamers and welcome to another repair video. Today we have this Neo Geo Pocket Color, which was another console from my backlog, which I'm making my way through at the moment during these times of isolation and self-reflection. This Pocket Color comes from a phase I had last year where I was buying lots of broken consoles online. The problem with this is that it does not turn on. But wait, there's more. Let me introduce you to my other Neo Geo Pocket Color. This stems from last year and was an unsuccessful repair. Unfortunately, this actually did turn on when I first got my grimy sticky fingers on it, but the more I worked on it, the more I seemed to break it. Originally, it just had sound problems, and the potentiometer was pretty far gone. It actually needs to be replaced, and I had trouble sourcing a replacement part online. However, in the process of my extensive mucking around with it, I somehow managed to pull one of these inductors off, and even though you can see I've done a little hack solder job there, that didn't work, and I was in the process of finding a replacement for that as well when I lost the power button. So I'm not really sure how I lost it. To this day I have not found it. I must have accidentally thrown it out, but it's a bit of a weird power button, which you'll see later on, and it's very hard to replicate using buttons from my scrap box. Anyway, since the case design of this is a little bit more out there and seems to go for a little bit more money, and maybe it's a little bit more sought after, even though it's pretty tacky, the plan is to fix this grey Neo Geo so it actually turns on, and then I'll be doing a case swap. So as you can see, with fresh batteries in, there is absolutely no sign of life at all. There's also a slot for a CR2032 lithium coin battery, which I believe is for the internal clock, and for a moment I presumed that maybe this had to be in there for the console to turn on, but a little bit of research turns out that is false. This thing is dead, so we'll have to crack it open and see what's going on. Like most handhelds of the era, it's very simple to disassemble. There are only 6 screws, but keep in mind that one of those are the tri-wing type, so you will need one of those screwdrivers while the rest are just Phillip head. Once the back half of the case is off, there is just another 3 Phillip head screws holding the main circuit board in place. And just like the previous Game Boy Pocket repair, it's quite easy to lose these screws, although try not to retrieve it as clumsily as I did. Now this is where the disassembly gets a bit more fiddly, definitely a lot more than any Game Boy you'll find. The circuit board is held in back to front to the screen using a ribbon cable, as opposed to the Game Boy Pocket where the ribbon cable is on the other side, so you sort of have to sandwich it open and then carefully remove the ribbon cable. The ribbon cable is held in using one of these brackets, again much like the Game Boy Pocket, so be sure to pull up those tabs before pulling out the ribbon cable. You'll likely have a few buttons fall out during this process as well, but also keep in mind that the speaker is wedged into place. It's not glued in as far as I can tell, but you will need to wedge this out using something small and pointy. I'm just using a flat-headed screwdriver here, but I really need to invest in some plastic spudges as the metal tip can be quite destructive towards the plastic. And with that, the circuit board is free. It's quite a well-engineered piece of kit, being double-sided, having everything contained on the one board. Looking it over, it actually looked pretty good. I couldn't see any noticeably blown components, and there was a bit of flux and a bit of dirtiness, but otherwise it looked pretty clean, which honestly is a bit worrying. Usually when something doesn't turn on just because it's dirty, it's usually quite apparent. So as a starting point, I don't really have much choice rather than to give it a clean with IPA and seeing where that will take us. So I gave it a good going over with a toothbrush and 99.8% isopropyl alcohol, paying particular attention to the capacitors as well as the potentiometer. The semi-awkward design made this a bit hard to test while everything was open, but at the very least, using the red LED, I could at least see if it now turns on. And hey, check that out. It appears to do exactly that. Hey. That was lucky, but I guess we should plug in the screen first before we start celebrating. And yep, it appears to be all dandy. I was worried about the volume momentarily, but it just turns out the knob was turned down. That's all good as well. So thank you, IPA. Not only are you great at keeping our hands clean and virus-free during these awful times, you're also great at fixing consoles. That's 2 handhelds in a row now that have been fixed with nothing but IPA. Well worth adding to your bench if for some reason you don't already have it. So from there I gave a game a quick test, since that is the primary purpose of this handheld after all, before getting down to disassembly. From here, I started to compare all the small components of the two handhelds, like the buttons and whatever else, with the goal to find the best of the two to combine it into one perfect device, or at least as close to perfect as I could get. Fortunately, I only had one fatality, which was this contact, which disintegrated in my hand, which would probably usually be quite the problem. But luckily, in this case, I had two. I even decided to pick between these two metal plates. One was noticeably nicer than the other, and while you can't see it anyway, since the other will just be going into the scrap box, I figured I may as well use it. Everything metal had to be removed anyway, as I planned on washing the case, and the next step was the screen. This is just adhered into place, so I removed this by very slightly warping the front case and then prying it out with a screwdriver. Again, this is a situation where a plastic spudger would be much more of a safer bet. Unfortunately, both the screen lenses on each handheld had their issues. On the grey there was scratches, and on the blue there was marks around the edges. So I just decided to keep the one on the blue since they're both pretty bad and it would save me from removing one more thing. Fortunately, there are glass replacements you can buy online for about $5, so that might be something I'll consider in the future. And with that, it was time for a bath. This time I actually decided to do it in a sink as opposed to plastic containers last time, since that just ended up with water all over my desk. And from there, it was time for the final reassembly, which, as I stated last time, is always the most satisfying part of the process, and after a little bit of a courtesy wipe, we were all good to go. So this was certainly a very simple repair, and again, I got very lucky that it just had to be repaired with IPA. This will make a fantastic addition to my collection since I don't already own a working one, and I was glad I found it so cheap broken, because I do go for a fair bit of money these days. As of recording this video on eBay, they go for about $250 Australian, but I paid about $60 for this. I don't remember how much I paid for the original one, so I guess that would probably shoot the price up a little bit, but hey, let's not consider that. Anyway, regardless, thank you for watching, and I'll catch you in the next video.